Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the California Arts Council and to review our request for proposals for a consultant to partner with Native communities. My name is Megan Morgan. I am the Race and Equity Manager here at the California Arts Council, and I am a middle-aged Black and mixed race, light brown-skinned identifying woman. And today I'm wearing a white button-down shirt, a light green headband, and my hair is pulled back into a bit of a ponytail puff. So as I stated before, this webinar is a review for the consultant we're looking to partner with to work with Native communities. And we'll be going over an agenda and a few points about accessibility before we fully launch into the content of today's webinars. So I want to say thank you to Faith, who is currently on screen right now as our American Sign Language interpreter. Today's session is also being recorded and will be posted to the Cal eProcure website, as well as the California Arts Council's YouTube channel. Captioning is available live, and transcripts of this recording can also be sent out to you upon request. ASL, as I've mentioned, is being provided by Faith, and Spanish language interpretation is also available. And it's become common for accessibility purposes that each speaker today, like I just did, will introduce themselves and provide a brief description of their role here at the California Arts Council and how they present visually. So for translation interpretation, if you take your mouse, either your physical mouse or hover your finger on the trackpad and kind of scroll down to the bottom of your Zoom screen, and you'll see the Spanish language or the interpretation caption. You might have to click on the More button, depending on how your screen is laid out, for that globe icon to pick up for you. And then in terms of submitting questions, we don't have questions being answered live today. We're trying to give everybody access to the same information at the same time. So there's a few ways that you can submit questions, either through the Q&A function, which is also on Zoom at the bottom of your screen, or you can send an email directly to our procurement specialist, carla.pareja@arts.ca.gov. We do have a quick turnaround due date for questions as of tomorrow at 5 p.m. and they'll be answered through an addendum on the Cal eProcure website by next Wednesday, April the 9th. There's a link here on this slide, which is a link directly to the website where you can submit those questions and see all the details of the RFP. And we'll also post that into the chat for everybody's benefit here today and convenience. So just a reminder here about the Q&A function. So if you hover your mouse down at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the Q&A function. And I want to thank Gabriela as well, who's here doing Spanish language interpretation. Sorry, I neglected to mention you earlier along with Faith. So here is an overview, an agenda of what we're going to go over here today. Here at the California Arts Council, whenever two or more of us are gathered, we do a land and peoples acknowledgement. We're going to do some welcome, as we're doing now, and some introductions of the various staff here at the California Arts Council. Review very briefly the project background. Going to go through the real how and what and why and how to respond to this RFP in everyday language. I'm going to go through what the evaluation process looks like, a required documents review, and we're going to take you through to the Cal eProcure website and do a walkthrough of that. It could be a little interesting to navigate for those who are new to this system. And then also at the very end, this is all optional, but which required attachments and documents apply to you? The California Arts Council is a state agency, and as much as we like to use plain language to be able to communicate with everyone, there are certain state required documents that can be a little difficult to get through at first glance. So we wanted to provide that extra technical assistance today. And so on to our land and peoples acknowledgement, which was developed 2 years ago formally by the California Arts Council tribal members. So the California Arts Council acknowledges the original inhabitants of these lands now called California, and California continues to be home to many indigenous communities. Generations of tribal communities have developed deep understandings of the land and continue long-standing relationships with the land, water, air, plant, and animal beings through ceremony, culture, and stewardship. These communities are not only an important part of our history as contemporary Californians, but they are also important voices in our understandings of this place. And so in acknowledging the violent history of the founding of the state of California, its support of state-sponsored genocide, the misrepresentation of Indigenous peoples and their culture, and the erasure of their contributions to our shared history, we at the California Arts Council recognize our responsibility to these Indigenous communities, and we are compelled to support tribes, tribal organizations, and related organizations, including arts organizations, in their efforts to uplift Indigenous people and communities. And so with these ideals in mind, we recognize today that the California Arts Council is a statewide organization with staff and council members residing in numerous occupied territories of tribal nations. But its offices, and where I am zooming in from today, are located on the traditional homelands of the Maidu, Miwok, Nisenan, Patwin, and Winton peoples of the Sacramento region, and to take a moment to acknowledge and honor the Wilton Rancheria, the only federally recognized tribe in Sacramento County, and recognizing that many of you may be zooming in today from these various regions across the state as well. And so it's my pleasure now to turn the mic over to our Executive Director, Danielle Purcell.
Thank you, Megan. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us at this very important moment and milestone in our commitment to racial equity and to Native American artists and communities throughout the state of California. My name is Danielle Brazel, and I currently serve as the Executive Director of the California Arts Council. I have a kind of light brown hair, fair skin, and I'm wearing a vintage tennis sweater with some colored stripes, yellow, blue, and red stripes today. I want to acknowledge that the webinar today is being recorded for those unable to attend today. And this is an acknowledgement of an intention and a promise that we made back in 2019 when the Arts Council convened a group of leaders from tribes and Native American artists from across the state to address critical issues that were facing the Native communities. And one of the ways in which the kind of top item that came out of that was to have a separate and distinct grant program specifically to serve Native American artists in California. And when I came on board, this became something that is a promise that we made. It's taken us some time to fulfill that promise, and we want to make sure that we are doing it in the most conscientious and thoughtful and appropriate way. And in order to do that, we've received extraordinary support and guidance from our from the governor's office, tribal secretary, and tribal liaison, Christina Schneider Ashtari, and we thank her for her guidance and her stewardship. I also just want to recognize that in fulfilling our commitment through this meaningful engagement that we've had with California Native American artists, this really serves as the foundation for this RFP, or as we say, request for proposals, or as we say, RFP, and the future grant program focused on Native American artists. In 2019, we worked very, very closely and collaboratively with the Governor's Office of Tribal Affairs to convene many artists from across the state. And this indeed was that one really important action that everyone agreed upon, and we want to make sure that we are, again, fulfilling that commitment. So In many ways, this RFP is a culmination of these discussions, and we are grateful that we are re-releasing this opportunity with additional resources and additional time to ensure that we are um, being responsive to the feedback that we received from the proposals for the first round. And we are so grateful that you have chosen to join us again today. And with that, I am going to turn this back over. I believe I'm handing it over to Rebecca Ratskin, our Equity Measures and Evaluation Measures at the California Arts Council. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rebecca Ratskin. I am the Equity Measures and Evaluation Manager here at the California Arts Council. I am a middle-aged fair white woman, and I am wearing a V-neck gray long sleeve shirt, and I have maroon glasses, and my brown wavy hair is pulled up into a twist. Next slide, please. I will be taking us through how to respond to the RFP and specific components with that, along with the timeline. Next slide. First of all, an overview of the key action dates. We released the RFP on March 24th, the revised RFP on March 24th of this year. We are having the optional webinar today that is being recorded, as our executive director described today on April 3rd. Questions for in relationship to this RFP and this opportunity are to be submitted by 5 p.m. tomorrow, Friday, April 4th. We will then review those questions and respond to them and post them publicly to Cal eProcure website on April 9th of next week. The proposal, the entire bid package that one of my colleagues will take us through in a moment, will be due on April 18th in a few weeks. And then if we do decide to conduct interviews with top respondents, those will happen the first week of May 5th, excuse me, through 7th. With a notice of intent to award on May 12th and the approximate beginning of the work happening on June 1st. And the time frame of this project now will be approximately 18 months from June 1st, 2025 through November 1st, 2026. Next slide, please. So the first thing I want to take us through is actually the RFP submission components, or the main proposal components of the entire bid package. And the scope of work itself can be found on page 6 of the RFP that goes into specifics around the activities that we would like this consultant to do. The proposal components include a narrative. How are you going to approach this work and the scope of work that's described in the RFP? Team descriptions and roles. Who are you? Who is everybody on your team? And what will everyone do to accomplish the work in the way that you have described? Work examples. Please provide at least 2 work examples of work that you've done similar to this type of project, in explicitly laying out ways of engaging with diverse communities, with Native American tribes and Native American communities, with artists, and with government and philanthropy. A detailed timeline. How will the work happen across the 18 months? When will specific activities occur? What is the phasing of the entire process? And a cost proposal worksheet. Again, one of my colleagues will take us more depth through that. But how will funds be expended? The budget for this project is now $100,000, and we would like to see through the cost proposal worksheet how those monies will be distributed throughout the entire project when it comes to the different activities. And then references. Who can speak to your experience? And we would like to see at least 2 references, and also to be explicit in laying out details about their name, who they're affiliated with, and contact information. Next slide, please. Along with these proposal documents, there are a slew of mandatory business documents that will be accompanied with the entire proposal. Just for reference, entities that can respond to this RFP include individuals, sole proprietors, partnerships, disabled veteran business enterprises, nonprofits, and for-profit enterprises. So depending on the type of entity that you are in responding to this RFP, a different set of documents will be applicable to you. Again, we will go over that in just a few moments. But those might be a proof of insurance, business certifications of the type of business that you are in terms of a small business or specifically a disabled veteran business enterprise, which we often refer to as DVBE, a business license, a copy of a 501c3 status, for example, if you are a nonprofit, and a copy of certification from the California Secretary of State. I just want to emphasize that the documents themselves are listed as mandatory if they apply to the type of business that you are. And again, we'll go over that in more detail. And you can find more details about these documents in section 7 of the RFP on page 10 or in attachment 16. Next slide, please. Along with all of these documents, we encourage you to read and reread the instructions for how to submit the proposal and the bid package that is in section 8 on page 12. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of really going through it again to make sure that you're crossing off every box and preparing the documents in a way that we can receive and approve them and move them into a review process. As my colleague Megan Morgan stated earlier, we are a state agency, and so these things do become important in terms of the details. One of the things is to submit the entire package in a PDF format with the exclusion of the cost proposal worksheet, and that should be in one document, not in separate pieces, and not in separate emails. One document sent via email to our procurement analyst, Carla Pareja, at carla.pareja@arts.california or ca.gov. If there are difficulties with you sending things in one document, please notify our procurement analyst immediately so that she can work with you. And if there are any conflicts or ambiguities or errors as well. The other thing of note in terms of instructions is that the proposal package that I described earlier should be no more than 10 pages. That doesn't mean it has to be 10 pages, but it cannot go over 10 pages. That does not include the cost proposal worksheet. Next slide. So who are we hoping to bring on for this work? This is very much a project that is about working with community in partnership and in a participatory process. Individuals, sole proprietors, nonprofits, for-profits, partnerships can all respond to this RFP. We are looking for someone or a group who has deep connection with Native American communities and tribes and tribal entities throughout the state of California, that knows these communities and that we work with a sense of and working towards a building of trust. And so that relationship is really important. That there is a participatory knowledge and experience in design and engagement using participatory practices, again, working with people in partnership, not even for, but with. And with that, a knowledge and experience of equity, design, and data principles. So doing design work, program design, and data analysis and data gathering using an equity lens. Institutional experience. We are a state agency. The system that we work in includes philanthropy and nonprofits and other entities. So experience working with a variety of different institutions and the different considerations of how those institutions work is really important. Also, in general, being able to work in partnership with diverse communities and understanding a multiplicity of voices and bringing that to really be vocal and visible within the work. And finally, it's very important. Trust is built by relationship and engagement with people, often in person. A requirement of the scope is that there be at least 4 in-person meetings of the advisory committee. And so we really are seeking somebody who can be in person with community in committee work, and also with the CAC team in conducting the work itself. Next slide. And that's it. I yield and turn back to you, Megan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rebecca, for that overview. And just to remind everyone, and if you've joined the call after we've started, you can submit any questions you might have today using the Q&A function toggling at the bottom of your screen. And you can also email Carla Pareja, who I'm very excited to introduce you to next. She is our procurement specialist and administrator here at the California Arts Council. Carla, we're ready for you.
Thank you, Megan. Hello, all. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Carla Pareja. I'm the procurement analyst for California Arts Council. I'm Asian, Pacific Islander with long, wavy brown hair and wearing black rimmed glasses with sequin scarf. I don't know if you can see it. So I will be going over the following RFP. First, the evaluation process. Next slide. So what is the evaluation process for this RFP? You will find the complete details of the evaluation plan on pages 14 through 21 on the RFP. Attachment 16 also outlines the evaluation plan. The bidder who demonstrates both responsive and responsible and also earns the highest points will be awarded the contract. So there are 3 phases to the evaluation, which I will go over next. Phase 1, administrative criteria. This part determines the responsive bidder, where reviewers will go through each bid package received by the deadline to ensure all required documents are present. If all documents are received, the bidder passes phase 1 and will move on to phase 2. A responsive bidder is one who is compliant without significant deviation from the requirements of the RFP and its terms and conditions. So it is extremely important for all interested parties to read the RFP thoroughly and carefully. So phase 2, technical criteria. So the technical criteria will consist of reviewing the bid package using the scoring rubric. In this phase, the reviewers will determine the responsible bidder. A responsible bidder is one who possesses experience and capability of performing the contract. Phase 3, the cost criteria. The bidder with the lowest cost proposal will receive the maximum points, and the other bidders will receive cost points based on the formula. You can find the formula on page 15 of the RFP, as well as on attachment 16. And then the initial ranking is then calculated. Any preference for incentive points are applied if the bidder chooses to apply for the small business preference or DVB incentives. The initial ranking will then be adjusted to reflect the application of the preference and or incentives. And then the final score will then be calculated to determine which bidder has the highest points. Next slide. Required documents review. So this slide summarizes all required documents the bidders will need to submit as part of their bid package. I will be going over in detail in the next few minutes to explain which forms may or may not apply to you. But first, I will do a walkthrough of the Cal Procure, where the state advertises bid opportunities. So I'll be screen sharing. All right. All right. I'm enlarging. On the screen, you will see the Cal Procure website. This is the landing page for this RFP. As you can see, it has a title. It has a description for this RFP and the reasons why we're posting, and the contact analyst information in case you need to contact me. And you could also find it here. Then you want to click on the View Event Package. Thank you so much for your patience. This website's a little finicky. This screen will show, this web page will show a list of all the attachments for this RFP. Here, so you'll see attachment 1 all the way down to 16, actually 18. So I highly encourage all bidders to download these forms or these documents as soon as possible. You don't want to wait last minute to download them because sometimes this web page or this website goes through maintenance in the most inopportune time. You want to first start reading the RFP, the file called RFP-24-004, NAIA Revise. This details the RFP and the terms and conditions, and it will go through the whole entire explanation of the RFP. As you can see here, we have an addendum 1. This is just to post the webinar, the registration for this webinar. So if there's any changes or additions that we need to make, we will be doing it through an addendum and it will be posted here. You will find it here. So I highly encourage all interested parties to view this website as frequently as you can in the event of any changes or revisions to this RFP. Let's see. If you encounter any issues with this website, I just want to note that California Arts Council does not maintain this website. We have no control over it. If you encounter any issues, you want to click on Help, Contact Us, and these are the contact information. This is who you want to contact in case you have any issues with this website. Okay, let's see. I will stop screen sharing. Right, let's see. Change slides, please, Megan.
Is this one correct? Refer to attachment 1 or the next slide?
The next slide.
Okay. Is this one correct? Continuation, refer to attachment 1?
Um, Let's see. What I'm seeing on my part is attachment 25, Cali Procure walkthrough.
Let me stop share and share again. Which slide number would you like? I apologize.
That's okay, 26.
Okay, one moment.
Thank you so much for everybody for your patience. There's always some technical glitches along the way, but we try to overcome those as much as possible. Thank you so much, Megan.
You're
Right.
welcome. Is this one correct now, slide 26?
That you might want to go before, 2 slides before. Yes, this looks good. Okay. So this slide is a breakdown of the attachments. On the left side, it'll show all the required attachments that applies to all types of bidders. On the right side, shows all the forms that is optional. It may not apply to each and every one of you. We don't know. You know your situation better than us. So that is for you to decide and make a decision. So for example, attachments 1 through 7 is required for each bidder. But attachment 4, DVBE participation incentive form, it depends if the bidder chooses to apply for the incentive. If you don't want to apply for the DVBE incentive, or you don't want to participate in DVBE, you basically indicate no on the form, sign and date it, and submit it in non-editable PDF. Attachment 8 is called Darfur Contracting Act. This does not apply to most bidders. However, as a state agency, we're still required to offer this form to you. This may not apply to you, or it may apply to you. It's very important for you to read this form carefully, because if it does apply to you, there are additional requirements and the form will outline that. Okay. But for the most part, it doesn't apply to everyone. So that's why it's optional. That's why it's on the right side. Okay, next slide, please. So again, on the left side of this table, it shows all the required attachments or forms. Now, however, I just want to put a little caveat here. Attachment 9 is workers' compensation certification. This only applies to bidders with an employee or employees only. If you have employees, this form is for you to fill out. However, if you don't have employees, attachment 10, then you want to use attachment 10, you want to use attachment 10, individual and sole proprietor statement for businesses with no employees. Okay. So either one of these two applies to you. It's for you to decide. Okay. But it depends on if you have an employer or employees, essentially. So at attachment 11, 12, and 13, those are required for all bidder types. Okay. And on the right side, attachment 14, again, if you are a DVBE bidder or you're using a DVBE subcontractor or contractors, this applies to you. And if you are using a DVBE subcontractor, you will also need to attach number 15, a confirmation letter form. And on attachment 3, bidder declaration, you will be listing all your subcontractors in that form. And if they're DBBE, you'll need 14 and 15. If they're small business, you don't need that, but you just need to indicate whether it's small business or DBBE. Okay, next slide. Oh, actually, go back to previous slide, sorry. So Gen AI notification clause, this is a new requirement for the state. If you are planning to use or implement Gen AI for this contract, you will have to disclose that. And the form will explain what you need to disclose. Okay, next slide. Okay. So these are not actual forms, these are mandatory business documents. So if you are a bidder, there's a small business, you must provide a copy of your certification, only if you're a small business. If you're using a subcontractor that's small business, you must also provide a copy of their certification. It must be active. Okay. If you're using multiple small businesses, you must submit the certification for each of the subcontractor small businesses. The same goes for Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise, DVBE. If you are DVBE, you must include your certification. Only if you're a DVBE. If you're using a subcontractor that is a DVBE, you will also need to furnish their certification. And again, it must be active or not expired. Okay. If you're using multiple DVBE subcontractors, you must submit that as well. Okay, for each subcontractors. If you're using a combination of small business for DVBE, doesn't matter, you must furnish their certifications for small business and DVBE. A Secretary of State registration. This applies more for bigger organizations, not so much for individuals or sole proprietors. So if you are a nonprofit, for example, potentially an LLC, a partnership, or for-profit organization, this may apply to you, that you will need to register with the state of Secretary of State, and you'll need to furnish your registration with the Secretary of State, okay? But this won't really apply to individuals or sole proprietors, okay? Next slide, please. This is a continuation. So a copy of your business or general license. It must be active or not expired. This may not apply to individuals or sole proprietors. Okay. Copy of the bidder's insurance coverage must be active. This may not apply to individuals and sole proprietors. A copy of the bidder's IRS confirmation letter. This is only applicable to nonprofits or 501c3. Okay. Copy of other business documents. Now, it depends on your business entity type. For example, if you're joint powers of agreement, you will need to submit a copy of the executed JPA, sorry. Okay. So examples of business entity types, which Rebecca has gone over excellently previously. So individuals, sole proprietorship, partnerships, small business, disabled veteran, business enterprise, nonprofit, 501c3, for-profit, joint powers of agreement, and the like. So those are just an example of business entity types. Okay, there's quite a few. Okay. Next slide, thank you. So this is a culmination of everything that we've discussed today, a visual culmination, an illustration of what is considered a complete bid package that gets you closer to potentially contracting with California Arts Council. So your proposal requirements, which Rebecca has gone over thoroughly earlier today, that includes your project narrative, your team description and roles, work examples, detailed timeline, cost proposal, which must be in Excel format, and references. Everything else can be in non-editable PDF, plus required attachments. so that we've gone over, hopefully in great detail. We'll go in great detail later on to the last 10 minutes of this webinar. But please refer to attachment 1 or attachment 16 or attachment 16, okay? Plus mandatory business documents, copy of your certification, business license, insurance, 501c3, registration with the Secretary of State, if applicable to you, equals the complete bid package. So I hope that this visual is helpful. So next slide. So in the last 10 minutes of this webinar, we will go over each attachment or forms. We will open up each forms and walk you through each forms, because I know it's a little bit of a, it's confusing sometimes. So we totally understand. So that is optional for those who wants to stay for the last 10 minutes. Otherwise, I turn your attention back to Megan Morgan. Thank you so much.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you, Carla, so much for going through the detailed part of the RFP and all the required documents. I think, Rebecca, am I turning it over to you to walk through each attachment, or Carla, are you sharing your screen for those?
So I believe it was an option for the last 10 minutes.
Okay.
So it depends. We can wing it.
I think Carla was going to share her screen and go through each one, but if we just want to remind everybody about the timeline, for those who choose to log off at this point, that questions are to be submitted by 5 p.m. tomorrow. We will respond to those by next Wednesday, April 9th, and that the entire bid package, as Carla has described it, is due by 5 p.m. on April 18th, with no exceptions. And then the review of all of the applications and responses will happen in May, with the work planning to begin in June. Thank you.
I just want to add one more thing, just to make sure. So please read the RFP carefully. If in the event California Arts Council decides, I don't think we're looking to do so, but if there is a business need, we may have to modify the key action dates. So it's imperative for interested parties to check on the posting frequently in case there are any changes. It will be posted by an addendum. So please revisit the posting regularly so that you're up to date with any changes. But we're not looking to do that. But if there is a business need, we may have to. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks to those who are still on the call. It looks like we've still got just over 30 people who are with us and are interested in going over each attachment. So Carla, I can turn that back over to you to screen share and walk through those attachments with everyone.
Okay, sounds good. All right.
Okay. Or maybe through the Cali Procure. Do you want to go back to the Cali Procure website, or I don't know if you have them pulled up?
Oh, no, I mean, I have it on my desktop just
okay.
because the Cali Procure may take a while to open up.
And it actually serves as another really good reminder. I know you mentioned with the spinning wheel, and one of the things we talked about in the prep for this call was getting everybody to even go onto the website now, like well before the due date, to download all the attachments so that you have them ready to go and not on the day when the proposal is due. I know many of us like to use like as much time as we possibly can to get it in, but if you at least have all of the documents downloaded that you need to fill out and submit, that will be a huge help in the end when you go to submit the completed bid package. And hopefully hundreds of others aren't doing the same thing at the same time and slowing the system down. So whenever you have a chance, just go in and download all those documents so you have them at the ready. And sorry, I will stop sharing. I apologize.
It's okay. It's okay. All right. So let's see. Thank you so much, Megan, for the reminder. We can't express that enough. Let's see. Right. So on your screen, and Megan, can you please confirm with me? Do you see attachment 1?
I do. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm enlarging it now. Hope that is better for everybody.
Yeah, much bigger.
All right. So this is attachment 1 for this RFP. Like we mentioned before, this lists all the required attachments. The attachment 16 is only a reference so that interested parties know knows the evaluation plan for this RFP. Attachment 17 is for awarded bidders only. Again, if this applies to the bidder, if they're using a DVBE subcontractor. And attachment 18 is for awarded bidder only. So, but this is a reference or an example. In the second page, it's going to list all the mandatory business documents if it applies to you. You're gonna hear that a lot from me because we are inviting so many different types of business entities. Some may apply to others, and so unfortunately, it gets a little bit. We understand it gets a little bit confusing. So this is why we highly suggest to read the RFP thoroughly. And if you have any questions still after reading the RFP and after attending this webinar, submit your questions to us by the deadline, and we will respond to these questions and post them to Cali Procure. Okay. So what you need to do on this form is this basically guides you what to submit. So you check off or X off. Okay. This is some people may not consider this important, but it is very important. We require it to be submitted. We want your package to be submitted in non-editable PDF and in this order. Okay. It helps us with the review or the evaluation if it's submitted orderly. Right? Okay. I'm going to open up another attachment. Megan, can you please confirm you see the attachment 2?
Yes, confirmed.
Okay. I'm enlarging attachment 2. This is the proposal or proposer certification sheet. I know it says original signatures. We are not, California Arts Council is not the author of this form. This is a DJS form or a state standard form. We accept non-original signatures. So if you scan this form in PDF, we'll accept it. Okay. So you must complete this form. It's required. Complete it correctly. Indicate your organization type. If you have a federal ID number, include that. For the most part, the FEIN applies to a majority of our bidders. If you have any license or certification, please include that information. Proposer's name print and title, and signature. So the signature must come from an authorized agent or employee of the organization or the bidder, okay? If you are a certified small business or DVBE, indicate so and include your certification number or service code. And the second page basically gives you an instruction for this form. So I think this page is very useful. I highly recommend bidders to read that, and don't gloss over it because the information is useful. Okay. Okay. I'll be going on to attachment 3. Megan, can you please confirm you see attachment 3?
I see bidder declaration. Is that attachment? Okay.
Yes, thank you. All right, I'm enlarging it now. Hopefully it's clear for everyone. So this is a bidder declaration. It won't say attachment 3. We are not, California Arts Council is not the author of this form. As you can see at the top here, it'll say GSPD, Department of General Services. So I couldn't add that information to this form, but I was able to add the solicitation number, which is right here. Okay. So if you are a certified small business, micro business, that's what MB stands for, micro business, small business, or DVBE, please indicate so on this line. If you're none of these, just select none, okay? If you plan to use subcontractors, you need to look at 1B. If you are a certified DVBE, you'll need to answer section 1C, 1 and 2. If not, you can skip over to section 2, where you list all your subcontractors, if you're planning to use subcontractors. And you need to include all the information that this form is asking of you. Now at the bottom, this form is a little bit confusing, I understand. It doesn't have a line or indication where you're supposed to sign. Again, California Arts Council is not the author of this form, so we'll just have to adjust to this form. So under certification, the authorized signer or signer needs to sign their name, date it, and please include your company name or your bidder name. Okay. So this form is really finicky. You would want to download this form to your computer. Sometimes some people complain that they are unable to open it for whatever reason, and we don't know either. We encounter those issues as well. So my recommendation is download this form to your desktop or your hard drive and view it there. You might not be able to view it through your web browser. Okay. If you're having issues completing this form using your Adobe, there is a workaround, the tried and true method, which is print it out and fill it out manually. If you are able to complete it using your Adobe, excellent. If you're unable to do that, I suggest printing it out and filling it out manually, and then rescanning it in PDF, okay? I will be going over to attachment 4. Megan, do you see attachment 4?
Yep, confirming attachment 4, DVBE participation.
Yes. So if you're a bidder and you want to participate in a DVBE, participate in a DVBE incentive, this is the form for you. But if you're not planning to, just indicate no, put your company name or bidder's name and indicate no. And you could skip sections 3 and 4, and then sign at the bottom and date. However, if you are planning to participate, indicate yes. Please put your name first, indicate yes. And in which method? There's 2 types of method. So if you are a bidder that happens to be a DVBE, that's great. But you don't have to be a DVBE bidder to participate. You can use a subcontractor for this as well. So, and then you indicate the percentage in which you want to participate. We don't have a minimum or a maximum for this RFP. We're giving bidders an option of your participation incentive. So the maximum is 5% and the lowest is 1%. Okay. Okay. I'm going on to attachment 5. And again, attachment 4, it doesn't apply to everybody. It applies to those who want to participate in a DVB incentive. But if you are a DVBE bidder, I highly recommend, I mean, you should definitely apply, because that will give you a slight bump in your points as we are evaluating. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm going really slow. I just want to make sure that I articulate what I'm saying and it's as clear as possible. Sometimes I can jumble up all my words if I talk too fast, and I tend to talk fast. So, okay. So attachment 5, Megan, can you see attachment 5?
Yes, and I also want to note that going slow is great for accessibility for our American Sign Language and Spanish interpretation, and for those listening who may have any audio issues. And so thank you, Carla, for taking the time to go through it so thoroughly.
Thank you so much, Megan, for reminding me of that. So attachment 5, confidentiality statement. I'm not going to go through every language on this document. Interested parties must read this carefully and understand it and sign at the bottom. Okay. And submit this in non-editable PDF. Okay. I will be going over to attachment 6. Megan, can you see the attachment 6?
Yes, commercially useful function, confirming.
So this is the commercially useful function certification. It is required from each bidder. And if you are using a subcontractor that's a small business or DVBE, you will also need to complete this form for each one. It's a very self-explanatory form. But if you have any questions in regards to this form, please submit your questions and we will answer. Okay. Over attachment 7. So I know this topic is very dry to people, so I'll try to make it as fun as possible. It's hard to do that with forms, but we really want to help everyone out to understand the state processes of contracting with a state agency. It's not always the most exciting topic, but I hope, but our point really is we want to have a successful slew of bidders, and yeah, we're excited to work with you. So Megan, can you see attachment 7?
Yes, cost proposal worksheet.
View. I'm gonna try to enlarge this as much as possible. Okay, so this is the attachment 7 cost proposal worksheet. All bidders must use this template, and all your cost proposal details must be on this template. Okay. This form will need to be submitted in Excel, not in PDF. And the reason for that is it's easier for us at California Council to make sure your calculations are correct. But that is really the bidder's responsibility to ensure the completeness and thoroughness of this form, and that your calculations, your numbers, cross-foot, totals correctly, okay? Because as we mentioned before, your cost will depend on whether you get the maximum points. It's part of the evaluation plan, the cost phase 3 cost criteria. So if you have the lowest cost, you'll get the maximum points. And then everyone else depends on cost points formula, okay? Okay, I'll be going on to attachment 8. All right, attachment 8, Darfur, Contracting Act certification.
Yep, can see it. Thanks, Carla.
Thank you. So, like we mentioned before, this doesn't apply to a majority of bidders. However, as a state agency, we are required to furnish this to respondents, and for them to see it, read it, understand it, and sign, or you may not need to sign. Now, I understand that this form is confusing, because at the top here, and I highlighted that, it says if it doesn't apply to you, if you haven't worked, done business activities outside of the United States for the last 3 years, within the last 3 years, you do not need to complete this form. So some people don't even submit it at all. And however, here, this option 1, certification, it says here, if your company has not done business outside of the United States the previous 3 years, this is where you sign. So it's kind of, it's conflicting, okay? We are flexible. So if you choose not to submit it, we'll make the assumption that this doesn't apply to you. Okay. If you're not scrutinized, so it's very important for you to read this form and make a decision. We do not make the decision for you. It is the bidder's responsibility to do that. However, if option number 2 applies to you, please note that you will need to submit a copy of a written permission from DGS, and that needs to be included with your bid package. Okay. So there are nuances to this form. It is, again, very important to read this form, understand it, if it applies to you or not. But if it does apply to you, there's additional requirements here, okay? And you will need to sign this portion of the form, okay? Moving on to attachment 9, and we should be able to go faster in this form. So attachment 9, Megan, can you see this?
Yes, workers' compensation certification.
Yes, so this form applies to you if you have an employee or employees. If you don't, then you don't need this form. You move on to, you may end up having to use attachment 10. Okay. Attachment 10. Right. This is attachment 10. This form is called individual or sole proprietorship exempt from workers' compensation insurance statement. So if you do not have employees, this form applies to you. Sign, date, and print your name as well, and submit in non-editable PDF. Okay. Attachment 11, the payee data record, SCD 204. This form is very important, very, very, very important. It is important that this form must be completed correctly. So for example, if you are an employee of an organization, and this form is confusing as well, I highly encourage folks not to miss this part. I'm highlighting it. The parentheses is helpful. It explains. So if you are an employee of an organization, let's say ABC 123, that's the name of your organization. That is the organization that is submitting a bid for this RFP. The name of that organization goes on field 1 under name, not the person who's completing this form. Okay. Okay. If your organization has a DBA, which is do business as, if you have an alternative name, please also include that on field 2. And of course, your mailing address and so forth. Section 2, please select the type of entity you are. So for the most part, if you're a big organization and you're not a medical legal exempt, most likely you are corporation, all others. Okay. If you are, let's say, a joint powers of agreement, most likely you are a corporation, all others. Okay. But if you are a sole proprietor individual, single member LLC, partnership, estate or trust, which I don't think this will apply to many or all of you, but you need to indicate the type of entity you are. So if you are a company, most likely you will have an FEIN number, a Federal Employer Identification Number. However, if you don't and you're applying as a individual or sole proprietor, you probably won't have an FEIN. You're going to use your Social Security number. Okay. And then section 4, the bidder must indicate whether you're a California resident or non-resident. Okay. And section 5, certification, this is the name of the authorized payee representative. So if you are filling out this form for an organization or company, this is where you print your name, your title, your email address, and then your signature. Okay. However, let me just scroll back. If you are an individual sole proprietor and you're applying for this RFP and you're not under any company or organization, then of course you're going to put your name up here because you're applying as an individual or a sole proprietor yourself, essentially. So you're going to put your name up here and not a company name. And then you're also going to sign under section 5, under name of authorized payee representative. Okay. All right. And section 6, we've already pre-filled this portion for you. Okay. Right. All right, so attachment 12. This is Megan, can you see this?
Yes, contractor certification clause.
Excellent. So this is as Megan said, we call it triple C. And it's noted, this is the shortcut of this name. We are not the author of this form. This is a DGS form. All bidders must fill out this form completely, accurately, and read this form carefully. So it'll go through statement of compliance, drug-free workplace requirements, national labor relations, contracts for legal services, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a portion here that I really want to highlight, conflict of interest. Okay. This is important to read and understand. If you're a former state employee, it depends on how, for example, how long you've been, if you were a former California Arts Council employee, there's a period of time where you may not be able to apply for any RFPs with California Arts Council. But after a certain period, I think more than 2 years, and I forget, it's very important for you guys to read this form and look it up in the contract code. Then you are able to apply for the RFP, and it won't be a conflict of interest. But if this does not apply to you, we still require for each bidder to fill out this form and submit it in non-editable PDF format. Okay. Okay. Gen AI, attachment 13. So the state has a new requirement for bidders, interested bidders for an RFP. And so attachment 13 is just a Gen AI notification clause. We just want you to read this carefully and understand that if you are planning to use or any Gen AI tools, or however you may implement the Gen AI for this RFP and for this project, you will be required to disclose that in complete detail. So please read this form very carefully. There's a lot of legalese language. It's not fun, but if this does not apply to you, you still need to sign it, print your name, your company name, sign it, and print your name, and your signature and your dates. Okay. We just want to make sure that you understand the requirements, and California Arts Council will be reviewing this form actually quite carefully. Okay. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Next attachment. So let's see. Okay, I know this form looks a little intimidating. Again, if this does not apply to you, you don't need to complete this form. However, if it does apply to you, please read this form carefully and fill it out. So if you're planning to use DVBE, there are additional requirements so that the state will request from you, or will need from you. Okay. Right. Attachment 15, confirmation letter for DVBE subcontractors. So if you are planning to use a DVBE subcontractor, as I mentioned a few slides back, or a few minutes back, you will need to complete this form. Okay. And basically outline the work that they will be performing. Okay. And if you're planning to use multiple DVBEs, then you will need to complete, like, for example, if you're planning to use 2 DVBE subcontractors, then you will need to fill this out twice. Okay. If you're planning to use 3, you'll need to fill out 3 times. So, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is page 2. And your signatures, and the signatures of your DVBE subcontractor. Okay, this is the final attachment, which is not a form, but so you can see how you can see the evaluation process or the plan for this RFP. Megan, can you see the evaluation plan?
Yes, again.
I can, okay, so I'm trying to enlarge it. Okay. So this is the evaluation plan. So there are 3 phases, as we mentioned before: administrative, technical, and cost. Okay. Gives you a breakdown. So sorry about that. So the administrative phase, it's not going to be scored. It's basically pass or fail, right? And we've gone over what you need to have with your bid package, which is your proposal, which is no more than 10 pages, not including the cost proposal, attachment 7, I believe, plus all the required attachments that applies to you, some of which applies to all of you, and the others are an option. It depends on your business entity type, plus mandatory business documents, which is your California certification for SB, DBBE, your insurance coverage, your business license, your IRS confirmation letter if you're 501c3, et cetera, equals what is considered a complete package. And if you submit that on time and you have all those details, you will pass. If not, there's a potential that you will fail. So just please understand that that is how we plan to evaluate this administrative part. So make sure we have everything that we need completed and in order. Okay, attachment 1, 2, 3, etc. Okay. The technical phase, I've gone over in detail with you. These are the points allocated for technical phase. I'll go over the scoring rubric. And then the cost, the maximum for cost is 60, and then everything else is based on the formula. Okay, and then there is the maximum points. Then you have the initial ranking, and then small business preference points, DBBE incentive. Okay, and then it'll be adjusted, and then we'll have the final ranking, right? So again, this is kind of like a repeat of attachment 1, but as you can see here, is it included with the bid package? You'll see the columns. Is it correctly completed? Is it signed? Those are just the basic things that we're looking for. Okay. Is your cost proposal in Excel? Did you submit it in Excel? Is it 100,000 or less? Okay. All right. Okay. So sorry about that. Okay. This is the proposal package requirements. We're also going to check to see if you submitted a proposal narrative, team description roles, work examples, detailed timeline, references, at least 2 references, right? Did you include the company name, their contact persons, the email addresses, telephone numbers? Those are important, okay? And then we, as part of California Arts Council, as a state agency, we have our due diligence. We will be verifying whether you're in good standing with the Secretary of State. Again, this does not apply to all, as we mentioned in the past, but if it does apply to you, we will verify that. You would want to check the Secretary of State website to see your status, essentially, if you're in good standing. That is the website that we refer to when we're checking. Okay, so just giving you an overview of what we will be looking into. So for example, prohibition of tax delinquency, if you're an organization, especially, that's you want to be interested in this part. We will be checking the IRS or the Franchise Tax Board website. They list all the delinquent organizations. Okay. We will also be filling out the CUF evaluation determination worksheet, right? We will be completing that, the evaluation committee. And this is the link, what that form looks like. We just want to make sure that the bidder or subcontractors that you are proposing to use for this RFP is actually doing a commercially useful function, okay? And the website will explain in great detail what that means. Again, if you are a copy of your small business micro, DBBE, 501c3, for example, we are looking to work with a bidder that is based in California or has a physical presence in the state that is outlined in the RFP. Copy of your insurance, any potential conflict of interest. You may want to look at attachment 12. We went over contractor certification clauses, but there's also more details of the conflict of interest also on the special terms and conditions of the RFP. And then of course the Gen AI notification clause, which is attachment 13. We don't know if bidders will be using Gen AI tools, but if you do, we will just want to let you know that we will be reviewing that form, and we may have to look into it. So that's just part of our due diligence part. Okay. And then yeah, so that is the administrative part. Okay. So the technical criteria, this is a breakdown of the points, the cost points here. This is the formula that I'm going to enlarge this. This is the formula that I mentioned earlier. Simple algebra. So if you have the lowest cost proposal, you'll get 60 points. Everybody else is based on this formula. Okay. And this is the scoring rubric. Okay, so that basically ends the presentation for this part. I hope it was useful to all of you, and I wish you all the best and good luck. We look forward to working with you and having this project live. We're very excited for this project. Thank you so much, all.
Thank you so much, Carla, and thank you to all of you who joined us for your lunch break and extended lunch break with the California Arts Council as we reviewed this request for proposals. I'm just putting up the key action dates again, so you can continue to submit questions here on the Q&A function while we're live doing these last couple of slides. We've been recording them, and we'll be answering them on the addendum next week, next Wednesday, April the 9th. You have until end of day tomorrow to get them in, so you can submit them through here on the webinar, or you can email Carla directly. Again, the proposal submission due date is April the 18th. Potential interviews in the first week of May, with notice of intent to award that following week. And then the project approximate timeline going from June 1st of this year till November 1st of next year. And then in our final couple of slides here, again, here's Carla's email address to submit additional questions, the link to the Cal eProcure website. And then as a way to just keep in touch with us, if you're not already following along on Instagram, where we give updates daily, weekly on the various things going on at the California Arts Council. A related event that's important to our organization is yesterday. We launched our 2025-2026 grants of the current grant cycle. So we're hoping to be able to launch, this grant next year, all being well, with this consultant that we're looking to partner with. But right now, currently, we have 7 programs open for applicants. So if that's of interest to you and those in your community, please check us out on our website and through our social media channels on Instagram, Facebook. We are on X, and then you can also sign up for Artbeat, which is our quarterly newsletter that goes out and kind of keeps you up to date with all that's happening at the California Arts Council, including our council meetings. So we have 8 public meetings per year that take place in person in various areas of the state. We're committed to geographic equity. And so we go to big cities, small cities, rural areas, urban areas, and we will be meeting in Pasadena next week for our next public council meeting, and we will be in San Diego in June. So you could head over to our website as well to see where those upcoming locations are, and we'll be formulating the schedule for next year as well. So that's a chance to engage with us in person as well as via Zoom at upcoming public meetings. And we are looking forward to reviewing and answering your questions and responding to an amazing set of proposals for this RFP, seeking to work with a consultant. And I can end things here, but Rebecca, I also, and Carla, want to leave it open to you if there's any last words or things you might want to remind folks of, or that we might need to say before closing.
Just a gentle reminder, I don't know if Megan, if you did, but I didn't hear it. So sorry if it's a repetition, but this webinar will be posted in Keller Procure. We'll have the link available to all of you and for you guys to view if you were unable to attend this webinar.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to thank everyone again for your interest in this project, in working with the California Arts Council and with Native American communities in the state of California, and for supporting Native American artists. It's very, very important for this council and for the state to do. And we're very excited, as you can tell, to engage with this work and support our communities. So thank you. And thank you, Megan.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks to our ASL interpreter, Faith, and Gabrielle for Spanish language interpretation, and Danielle and Carla and Rebecca and all of you. So please continue to submit your questions, and we look forward to engaging with you at a future webinar or in-person event. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.